But our next speaker is Max from Eluxevo. Huge round of applause. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I wasn't expecting a reply, actually, so you already put me off. Thanks, Yaro. How much time do we spend indoors? Have a guess. 90%. Oh, who said 90? Oh, spot on, apparently, sorry. Were you going to suggest something different? Well, it's 90. It's incredible, isn't it? 90% of our time is spent indoors in an environment like this. So how are you feeling right now? I need to go out more, yeah. Get some fresh air, maybe? There's a quality of fresh air. It's got a quality to it. Or just being outdoors has a quality to it. A quality that we know, we understand, because we've evolved like this. We've evolved with the sun, the feeling of warmth and light, the circadian rhythms that it brings. We perspire when we need to cool down, and the air helps us cool. And yet we're spending 90% of time indoors and not really happy with the situation that we're indoors. We want to get out more, right? So what might be the qualities that we like or dislike or affect our comforts within the indoor space? What things affect comfort? Temperature? Sure, what else? Humidity? Oh, I'm hearing all of the things. Lighting, harsh lighting, interesting. And other people. All right, well, not on this occasion, of course. Well, no, other people, they can make us feel happy, right? Yeah, that's true, that's true. So in the environment, there's lots of factors that affect our well-being. Now, is anybody apart from myself, or is anything asking you how you feel right now? There's a system in place here that monitors temperature, so tries to control it. Maybe monitors the humidity and maybe just switches on lights, right? These conditions are either here and they're set, but you don't necessarily have any inputs into it. Anyway, I should probably get on with my presentation. So we're talking about well-being in the built environment, but also talking about how the built environment understands your well-being and your personal comfort. So this is our team currently. There's me, obviously. Data scientists and software engineers, and also a designer looking at our UX and user interface. And here's our journey. So this goes back to 2022, feels like a lifetime ago. But we've been blessed with lots of support, and we've used, to our best abilities, the support to take us from an idea space all the way to a living lab space where we're trialing and testing I would say the seeds of what we want to build. And we've had a lot of help along the way. But what was the observation that I was making, which is we've got thermostats in our homes, in our offices, in our hotel rooms, in lots of built-in spaces where we spend 90% of our time. But nothing there is asking about our well-being. How do you feel today? So in many respects, they're kind of sort of dumb, if I may say so. There's a bit of alliteration there, dumb, dull, and dire. They sense the air temperature. They do that well. They can measure it in point and place, but they don't really understand our personal needs. They don't really care for our personal needs. They create dull environments. In other words, they don't really adapt. They're not changing. This space has been fixed all the time we've been in here for 90% of the day. And consequently, you know, the fact that we've got this user interface generating this user experience means that we're also conditioned by it. We can only turn a light on and off. We have those specific outcomes. And therefore, our energy demand can actually be excessive, where we set and forget something that's complex. We just, you know, set and let it go, even if we're not in a space. That might result in high carbon emissions, which is exactly what's happening today. It might result in inequality because systems that are oversimplified and not designed for human use end up creating social structures where if you can afford to heat your home all the time, great, good for you. If you can't, then you see it as anxiety. You know, should I turn it up or should I leave it down? And consequently, our energy systems have no idea of the human factor in the loop because the same home could have those two very different extremes. And of course, there are costs borne by all of us, some of which is to do with the lack of flexibility in the energy system, some of which is to do with the fact that if people can't heat their homes sufficiently, then they get unwell. And then there's a cost borne, in this case, to the NHS. So we can see how much just a simple user interface, which isn't user-centered by design or thinking about the systems that humans interface with, if it's simplified too much, it basically eliminates or tries to eliminate a very important factor. So what are we working on? Well, coined, so to speak, as APEX, so Adaptive Personal Comfort Systems. It's about understanding you and your experience of your environment. Right now, how do you feel? Do you feel a little bit warm? Do you feel a little bit cool? Maybe extremes of that. Maybe you weren't even thinking about it until I mentioned it. And I'm a bit more intelligent, a bit quotes of who's in that space and what their thermal comfort needs are, and how we can adapt spaces accordingly. But also provide more immersive outcomes, which, you know, when we talk about light, it has I've mentioned circadian rhythm, so when you should be asleep, when you should be awake, when you should be eating, or when you shouldn't be eating. But also, you know, adjusting maybe to your mood. Do you feel stressed in this moment in time? Do you feel tired? Or being more inclusive. In other words, you know, providing warmth where it's really needed. More affordable, because of course if we don't waste so much, then we don't need the infrastructure to account for all of that waste, and we can redistribute that benefit more equally. And hopefully, ideally, more sustainable, because there are other methods of heating and cooling spaces that, if you think about the human in the loop and account for it, can be lower carbon and more efficient. So this is a concept really from, well, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, which just illustrates how we might bring to bear a combination of infrared heating and lighting. In other words, we start on this journey wanting to simulate the effects of sunshine, which if you go back to January and February, I think would have been in high demand. It's a pretty dire time of the year. How we connect the human in the loop. So how do we understand a little bit more about your physiology and how that affects our requirements for different lighting conditions? Do we feel stressed? Do we want to feel cool? Do we feel excited and want to be energized to a day of productive work from home? And then how do we connect the dots? So a lot of our journey during this period with the Alan Turing Institute has been around thinking about data, thinking about stakeholders, thinking about how we interface with different systems, some of which are a little bit more closed, some of which are a bit more open. And when we start to explore this space, I mentioned devices, but there's also energy systems, there's services in terms of things like spaces which are used for multiple purposes, like this one here. There's a data set that exists, but also a future data set that we want to be able to create. And in this case, the E's done something weird there, but you know, how do we bring about that well-being? And something which was really clear, eye-opening, being part of the Practitioners Hub, was how much I didn't know, which is great because I don't like not knowing stuff. I prefer at least knowing the parameters of stuff, and then I can, you know, go into further depth. But you can see there's a complex system, so there's lots of complexity there. And again, through both Bridge AI and through BSI and ensuring it was unpacking those spaces of unknown and bringing them to the team as well. And therefore thinking about what those opportunities look like and how do we develop those opportunities by understanding the systems and people that we're interfacing with. And in this case, just illustrating really where we're starting with the models, but also how do we deploy those models in the real world when there's so much variation already in place. So where are we going next? Well, hopefully we're going to be in a space where, thanks to the support, oh, it's going to do something weird with the formatting. Okay, well, thanks to this support and the support that we've had in the past, we're in a good place to start looking at where we pilot our system. And this is still a learning process, so we know we've got something imperfect, but it's about testing it and seeing how people respond and how we can improve on what we've got so far. Understanding that value chain and broadening it out. So I mentioned stakeholder mapping. It's not just you as a user, it's an energy system, it's an NHS service, it's potentially cloud infrastructure. How can we generate more value through the work that we're doing? And that's a growth strategy. So obviously, how do we get from where we are now to where we want to be? And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Any? Oh, yes, the questions are asked now, promptly now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Max. That was wonderful. I would like one of those in my home, please. That would be great. We have one very, very stupid thermostat in my home at the moment, and it causes a lot of woe. Just a quick reminder of the fact that you can submit questions online. I have helpfully not included a reminder Slido, but it is still the same link as before. But I did see a hand go up for questions in the room, so I will hand over to that person.
I suppose it's an obvious question given where we are now. Most spaces are multiply occupied.
Yeah.
How do you cope with the multiple conflicting targets of multiple users in the loop?
So how do we cope with it at the moment? We assume we have no understanding. So I don't know if the average here might be similar or very different. But we're not even trying to understand that ecosystem. There's a range at which you will feel like you want to put a jumper on or take a jumper off, which is about how you perceive thermal comfort. I said earlier, do you feel warm, do you feel cool, or did you even not notice? And that not noticing is an element of your mind really sort of filtering out things that are less important. But that means...
I've got Granny in the corner and a babby in a cot. What do I do?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a range there, which could be that the older person has a low metabolic rate, so needs more warmth. Interestingly, a baby will probably need more warmth anyway, so maybe something like a teenager might feel quite cool because they're a high metabolic rate. So you can see that within separate environments, you can curate that and tailor that. When they come together, you can try and find an overlay there, specifically around how we're looking at deploying things like thermal warmth. You can condition air, and you can also use radiative surfaces, and those radiative surfaces can be broadly directional, for example, just to give an example of how we might use heat to implement that. But I think by virtue of the fact that we're not even trying to understand how people experience spaces means that we don't have any capability of adapting to that. So there's a lot to be explored still. And then I mentioned light in terms of a user interface. So we're using light as a way of conditioning spaces, but also as a way of influencing behavior. For example, just various examples, but you have two meeting rooms. If you see one that's already looking a bit warmer than another one, all else being equal, you might decide to go to the warmer one rather than heating all of the meeting rooms. So there's a little bit more of a symbiotic relationship with energy systems that way, through virtue of a user interface that's visual and intuitive, versus say something that is just sat on a wall and might be interfaced with or not, and you don't know why, and there's nothing. Well, I called it dumb, but you know, it's not as smart as I think we should make it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I've got a couple of questions online, and then I will take you, Joe. There's two questions, very direct follow-ups on this. How do you currently handle gender? So most office buildings are heated for the average man, which means some of us in the room are freezing. How do you think that a tool like this could maybe help women in the room, or how are you sort of tackling the differences in temperature perception and comfortable temperature between sort of two groups of people?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of ways you can deliver heating or cooling, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a grand amorphous scale like conditioning air. There's lots of other technologies that potentially we could interface with in future or develop in future that are far more bespoke. But I mean, as you're right, as we're doing it now, we base it on a standardized approach, maybe setting it at 21. I don't know what the temperature is in here, but wouldn't it be nice for you to at least have some input into it? and sort of again make it more responsive to that input.
Great, thank you very much. We've got one question from Joe, and then I think we will have to move on. But
yeah, my question was around hazards in the home or workplace. So say if there was, a fire or something and you've got quite low lighting, is there a way to quickly manually override it, or even if there's a way to detect in the room, you mentioned about temperature, is there a way to detect high CO2 levels where it could just put bright lighting on if it was already low?
Right, so that's interesting. I'm not sure if there are two questions there. One was around edge case scenarios like a fire. I'm not sure we've particularly focused around that specific scenario, but I suppose, yeah, introducing a user interface like lights can communicate various different things at different times, and that's intentional. How we deploy that is something that we're still sort of unpacking. Oh, sorry, the second part of the question was...
if the system could, automatically detect a rise in CO2 levels, so could, either, for example, working in the British Library, if it could detect, it could contact the fire department instantly and come there quickly, but in a home, could it, set off sprinklers, etc., if it could detect, air quality?
Besides fires, actually, CO2 is a good indicator of air quality and how many people are in a room. If this room isn't ventilated, as CO2 levels go up, you might feel drowsy, sleepy, not very conducive to being involved. but yeah, there's lots of sensors already within buildings that are being used for different things and different assessments. And CO2 is one of those. Yeah, but that's a good thing with understanding the context, right? You can apply different responses to that. Sorry, you got me a little bit on the fire scenario, which sounds very dramatic. And I'm like, gosh, if there's a fire, yeah, we could have all the lights flashing and go, get out!
Some sort of loud noise. All right, give a huge warm thank you to Max. Please take a seat. I have many questions for you later. Next, it is not Teesside because we've already had Hannah. It is, in fact, our final presentation of the day. Islao from Emanations.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to see all of you in person. We've seen each other mostly online. My name is Islao, for those of you who don't know. I'm the co-founder of Emanations. So with Emanations, we are essentially a Kent-based AI and data consultants and trainers with significant background in technology consulting and startups. We founded Emanations with the belief to democratize AI, to make it more accessible, because in order for the AI of today and tomorrow to represent all of us, it needs to be built by all of us. And that's why, working closely with educators, startups, SMEs, community leaders, we want to create this inclusive pathway into AI through mentorship, through AI training, innovation lab, which I'll talk about a bit later, and work placements, work experience opportunities. Recently, we just completed a pilot project, which was funded by Medway Council, where we delivered a series of workshops and clinics to schools and colleges, charities, community groups. The aim was to help people better understand how AI works, what it can do, what it can't do, what are some of the limitations around it, and how responsible use actually looks like in practice. So a bit about my role. So as the co-founder, I lead our strategic projects and partnerships, and also a key part of my role is also working around some of our in-house analytics tools, because data analytics is my main background, whilst also working closely with educators to design and embed AI capability into their curriculum. Oluwengo and I were just talking yesterday at the Bridge AI event that I've been running around all over Kent and Medway to schools and colleges, to various AI events, helping, discussing with colleges. And so currently I'm working with East Kent College, Ashford, developing a partnership model where we will help them adopt AI as part of their curriculum, particularly in engineering and business studies, with focus on preparing their students on, for the future of work and some of the skill set that's required for that. And I've also been working with one of the local charities in Rochester. That's where we are based, around drafting the AI policy and training some of their staff and volunteers on the responsible use of AI, particularly from a charity's perspective. And just last week, I delivered 2 sessions to one of the grammar schools in Rochester, to the year 12s and 13s, again around how AI will evolve the future of work, and what are some of the skill sets they need to be prepared. So the feedback we have received so far has been extremely positive. So we joined the Practitioners Hub at quite a pivotal moment. So our work in education was gaining significant traction, but we're also acutely aware of this implementation gap, basically the space between AI research and what organizations can actually deploy safely. And also, we didn't want our roadmap dictated by market momentum alone. We wanted our solutions grounded in rigorous governance and long-term impact, and that's what the hub allowed us. It allowed us to sort of pressure test our assumptions against the research-led perspectives, ensuring that the foundations that we build for our partners, whoever they may be, are as stable and as innovative as they can be. So one of the biggest things that changed for us after joining the hub was how we framed our conversations with our partners. The hub gave us the foundations to move simply beyond talking about AI tools and instead focus on an open source AI readiness. In other words, what institutions actually need to have in place to adopt AI responsibly and ethically. And in practice, what that means is that when we work with our partners now, whether that's working with the college to design the AI curriculum or drafting an AI policy, the conversation always starts with structure and the capability that needs to be put in place, and not just the technology that's required. And although we have strong, governance expertise frameworks, but the ISA clinics that we attended, that really showed us how to make our governance more visible and embedded in our work, and something that's not abstract, but something our partners can clearly see, implement, and truly understand. And of course, these reflections also shaped how we thought about our own innovation. And one concept that's strongly aligned with these insights was our AI innovation hub model. So it's a hub that's built around a sandbox approach and built on on an open collaboration model where we provide a safe, structured environment where learners, whether someone wants to develop an AI or whether just someone is curious about what AI can do, can experiment with AI tools and whilst building in confidence in using them responsibly. And the aim is for us with our innovation hub is to move beyond simply introducing AI tools and instead building stronger foundations for how AI is learned, practiced, adopted, and applied across the board. So when it came to our case study, we worked with Dominica, Stuart, Ariella, so a massive thank you to them to formally think about some of the challenges and risks associated, and some of the mitigation and processes, strategies that need to be placed to avoid those. And through this process, we also explored some of the governance structures and frameworks that need to be put in place to support a responsible implementation And also we began outlining some of the key steps to move the initiative forward. So building on our work from the case study, our next step is to develop a formal funding proposal for our hub, working with Medway and Kent Council as sort of a pilot location. And so that's why, we're currently developing a business plan and exploring potential partnerships with to bring the hub to life. And this is something we have pitched to EKC as well, on a much smaller scale on their campus where they will have exclusive access for their students. So we're in talks with that as well. But in the longer term, we want this model replicable beyond Kent and Medway, and I think that's the UK government's approach as well. And we want to build something that's sustainable, that strengthens local capability, and ensures AI innovation is not just limited to some well-resourced institutions. It's delivered by local partners who might work with those institutions, but it's something is grounded in the community. And it's something we originally pitched to Medway Council, but they said they really liked the idea. They showed significant interest, but they said, because you're a bit new, so it might be a bit over the top for you. You need to justify the funding. So go on with this pilot project. Almost use it as a feasibility study and gather what's the requirement there. And like I said, the feedback we have received has been tremendously positive. So our biggest takeaway from the hub has been around open collaboration isn't just valuable, it's something, it's operationally effective, and it reinforced for us that AI must be practical, inclusive, documented, and shared. And in other words, basically, the hub didn't just strengthen our ideas, but it strengthened some of the structures behind those ideas. And thank you.